Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome. It is Music Theory Monday. My name is Tara. I'm a professional singer based in New York City, as well as a music educator, singing teacher, and content creator. I learned very quickly in my content creation journey how gatekept music knowledge is and how much people want this information. So I have different offerings 5 days a week, free music educational offerings. Mondays is Music Theory Mondays. And today we're going to be talking about key signatures 101. What is a key signature? How do we build it? How do we identify them? And in order to be able to work with key signatures 101, you have to understand what an accidental is. And an accidental is either a sharp or a flat in music theory, okay? And I'm going to be using this resource, The Science of Music by Alan Van Wert, who, if you're not following him on TikTok, give him a follow. And if you're interested in purchasing the book, you can go to my TikTok shop showcase, or it's hyperlinked right here, okay? Or you can go to Alan's website, which I believe is musictheorysucks.com. Let me just make sure that's accurate. Yes, yep, music theory. So if you're on, I'm currently live on TikTok and live on YouTube. So if you're on TikTok, you can grab this from the TikTok shop, and if you're on YouTube, you're gonna have to go to musictheorysucks.com to order this book. And what I like about this book is I feel like it echoes my own teaching in the way that, like, removing the elitism, removing the stigma, removing all like the confusing music theory language that I think intimidates a lot of people. And then people feel like they can't learn music theory for some reason or another. And it's not true, right? It's just like learning any other skill. For some people, it'll come easier. For some people, it will come harder. But as long as you keep trying, the only way to fail is to give up, right? Okay. So for those who don't know me, my name is Tara. And this is my free music education space. There are some ways that you can support me to keep this content free. Free ways you can support me are by liking, following, subscribing. If you're here on TikTok, please pop over to YouTube, same handle. You can find it in my link tree, and subscribe. I'm new over on YouTube, so that's a huge help. You can also purchase things from my showcase or my Linktree shop. I also take tips in my Linktree. If you have $1 or $2, any amount helps me keep this content free. And if you're not in the position to financially contribute at this time, it's totally cool. You're still welcome. There is absolutely no shame in being a beginner in this space, which means that there are no stupid questions. Okay? And the music theory that we're going to be talking about today is a little more complex than a lot of like the musical interval work that we've been doing on Music Theory Mondays. And then tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, I'll be doing Ear Training Tuesday here on both TikTok Live and YouTube Live. And we're going to ear train with these half steps that we're going to start building key signatures with today, okay? So before we get started, just hi, how are you? If you have any questions, comments, thoughts, anything you'd like to learn, you can drop them in the comments. Apart from Music Theory Mondays and Ear Training Tuesdays, I also offer Warm-Up Wednesdays, which is when I show you my warm-up routine as a professional vocalist so that you can develop your own. I give free voice lessons on TikTok and YouTube Live on Thursdays, and then Frequency Fridays, which is like the soul piece, the confidence building. How do we put ourselves out there? How do we regulate our nervous system so that we can perform in front of other people? Stuff like that, okay? Does anybody have any questions off the get-go? Or let me ask a question to you. What is a sharp? Let's start with a sharp. I will take anything from like what you think it is, what you think it does, what's the symbol for a sharp, okay? Does anybody have any familiarity with a sharp? And forgive me, I'm going to be taking little bites of my salmon for lunch as we do this work. Okay, so a sharp one more second. I took too big of a bite of salmon. Okay, so a sharp looks like a hashtag. Okay, it's the symbol for numbers, 2 lines down and 2 lines across. I unfortunately am in the midst of traveling, so I don't have my flashcards available. Here, I'll show you here. This is very high tech, you all. Okay. It's probably backwards for you guys. The word sharp, but you can still see the symbol sharp, okay? It looks like a hashtag. Does anybody know what a sharp does to a pitch? So a sharp does one thing to a pitch and a flat does a different thing to a pitch. And what do I mean when I say a pitch? I mean any of the 12 notes on the piano. Okay, so starting on middle C, we have C, C, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 unique pitches. Okay. Nobody's feeling brave in the comments to guess what a sharp does. That's okay. I'll give it like 10 more seconds and then I'm going to give you the answer. Okay. So a sharp raises your pitch by a half step. Okay. So what is a half step? Or a semitone, right? A semitone and a half step. So that language is interchangeable. And that alone, hey Fairy House, thanks for the heart me. And that information alone is really important to understand. So a half step is the same thing as a semitone. The language is interchangeable, okay? So that's important to know. I usually use the language half step, but if you like the word semitone or you're in an environment where people use the word semitone, both are acceptable. They mean the same thing. What do they mean? Well, what they mean is a semitone or a half step is the smallest possible interval in Western music, okay? Now I specify Western music because it's different in Eastern music. They have something called microtones. We do not use those in Western music. So that means our smallest increment is between any 2 keys is a half step, right? So a white key to a black key, or a white key to a white key if they're right next to each other, okay? And if you are a visual learner and it helps you to have a keyboard in front of you through today's lessons, then open a browser and go to virtualpiano.net. Virtualpiano.net, and a little keyboard that looks similar to this one will pop up on your browser. Or if you want to download a free piano app, there are many on iPhone and Android. But I really do recommend having a little keyboard with you. It can really help. And let me see if here on YouTube, yeah. All right, can you all see my keyboard up above me now on YouTube? Let me see if it's there. Did it work? OBS lags a little bit behind YouTube, so we'll find out. Okay. All right, cool. We're in business. So a half step is the smallest building block that we have in Western music. It's the tiniest. Okay, and like I said, it can be between 2 white keys that are right next to each other, or it can be between a white key and a black key. But it's always gonna sound to your ear like Jaws. Oh, my iPad just died. Hold on, I have a charger right here. Do I? I don't think I do actually. Will you charge my iPad? Y'all might have to sit tight because this is going to be a little bit problematic to not have my iPad during this. Okay, I'm going to go grab my charger for my iPad, and what I'd like you all to do in the meantime in the classroom is sit down and find a bunch of different half steps, okay? And they should sound like the Jaws theme. Da-dum, da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. Okay, or if you're young and you don't know the movie Jaws, Kendrick Lamar, They're Not Like Us. Bum, bum, bum. That's also a half step. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so see if you can identify some half steps on your piano while I go get my charger and I will be back in just a moment. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so it turns out I actually have no idea where my charger is. If you've been part of the community for a while, you know that I've been traveling a lot, so I just don't know where it is. We're gonna have to work without it. Wait, is that you? No, that's my computer charger. So close, but so far. Okay. So a sharp, coming back to the lesson, a sharp raises, hey, Alyssa, nice to see you. A sharp raises a tone by a half step. So, for example, pick a note, any note on your keyboard, and play it. And then find the next note directly to the right. It could be a white key or a black key. And so that is making the note sharp. For instance, right now I'm playing an F, okay? If you are looking at a virtual keyboard, you're gonna find 3 black keys, and then you're gonna find the key directly to the left of the bottom black key, and it should sound like this, an F, okay? Now, play the black key directly to the right of your left. Play the black key directly to the right of the F is what I meant to say. Okay, that's an F sharp. All right. Now, can you find a C? A C, you're going to find 2 black keys on the piano, and then you're going to go to the white key directly to the left of the bottom black key, and you're going to find a C. Okay, go ahead and play your C. It should sound like this. Okay. And now we're going to make it a C sharp. So what are we going to do? We're going to find the next closest key to the right because we're going high, right? And the piano, the low pitches are on the left, the low notes are on the left, and the higher notes are on the right. So when we play the piano from left to right, like reading a book, we go from low notes to high notes. Okay, so when we're starting the C, playing the C, and now we're trying to raise the pitch by a half step, we're gonna go to the right because that makes pitches higher, okay? This is a C sharp. You should be playing this note. If you did, then you got it correct. Does this make sense? Do we have an understanding of what a half step is in regards to a sharp? Sharps raise the pitch, okay? If there are any questions, drop them in the chat. And so let me ask you this. If a sharp raises the pitch, makes it higher by a half step, what do you think a flat does? It does the direct opposite. So what do you think a flat would do? Got it. Awesome. Thank you for the feedback. Yes, exactly, Fairy House. It lowers it a half step. So let's start where we just finished. Everybody find that C again. So remember, you're finding 2 black keys on your keyboard, and then you're gonna find the white key directly to the left of the bottom black key. So you should play a C. It should sound like this. And now we're going to make it a C flat. We're going to lower it by a half step. The next key to the left of the C, right? Because when we go left, we lower the pitch. When we go right, we make the pitch higher. Is another white key, right? When we go from C and we make C flat, it actually is a B, right? And that's what we call enharmonic equivalence. So this pitch right here, that happens to be a white key just because we started on a C, it's technically a C flat because I asked you to find a C flat. but we could also call it a B, right? Because it just is a B. Does that make sense? These are called inharmonic equivalents. Let's try to find another flat. Okay, so this time we're going to try to find a G. Okay, so you're going to find 3 black keys again. Okay, you're going to go to the 2 lowest black keys out of that group of 3, and you're going to find the note in the middle. That's a G. This is a G. It should match this pitch if you found the right key. If not, find it with your ear. Okay, and now if I asked you to make G a G flat, what would it sound like? Go ahead and make your guess. Play it on your virtual keyboard or your piano at home. So we're going 1 key to the left, which happens to be a black key in this case, G flat. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, the black keys don't have their own names, right? The white keys are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But they never gave the black key names, which means the black key is either a sharp or a flat. And it depends on what key we're in. So for example, sharps will always be with sharps and flats will always be with flats. They do mix and match sometimes, but we're not going to get into the weeds with that today because we're talking about key signatures 101. And if you've ever looked at a key signature on a piece of sheet music, you've probably noticed that they're either all sharp signs, like those little hashtag signs, or they're all flat signs. Okay, and what do flat signs look like? We haven't done that yet. My high technology here. It looks like a lowercase b. Okay, that's what a flat looks like. So when you see a baby B after a note, right, like that would indicate a B flat. Okay, or you might see it like on a staff, like this, as a little note with a little flat near it. Okay, you also might see a C sharp, right? It would look like this. Okay. Apologies for not being prepared with a better display. My iPad's dead. I don't have anything to work. I don't have my flashcards, but we're getting through. We're doing the best we can today. Thanks for being patient. So does anybody have any questions right now? We've learned that the white keys are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. The black keys do not have their own names. So for example, if I was going to talk about the black key that rests in between an F and a G, right? We have a white key F and a white key G, and then a black key in between the two, okay? It could be an F sharp, meaning an F plus a half, or it could be a G flat, meaning a G minus a half. So a G flat and an F sharp are different names for the same thing because the black key doesn't have its own name. Does that make sense? So for review, before we learn how sharps and flats go into key signatures, okay, we have things called accidentals in music. And an accidental is the overarching category. And under the category of accidental, we have flats and sharps. Both flats and sharps affect a pitch by a half step or a semitone, which is the smallest building block we have in music in the Western scale, okay? A flat will lower the pitch by a half step and a sharp will raise the pitch by a half step. Okay? I've never done anything with flat and sharp. I just match pitch. Yeah, awesome. Love the knowledge. Cool. Yeah, so many people learn music by ear. And I realize that there's like almost this fear of music theory, like it's going to take your creative edge away or people feel like it's too hard to understand. And so I'm here to change that narrative. Okay, so going back to my friend Alan's Science of Music book, let's hear what he has to say about sharps and flats, because I think that this is a really great resource, especially for people who learn by ear and have never done music theory before, because it says it in such a way that is plain. It's easier to understand. So, okay. And again, this is available on the TikTok shop. It's in my showcase, and it should be linked right here on TikTok. And if you're on YouTube and you're interested in this book, you're going to go to musictheorysucks.com and you can buy it there. Okay? I don't read music, though. You're teaching me. Awesome. Very cool. Reading music is a good skill to have, but it's certainly not necessary to be a good musician. So I also want to make sure that I'm making that very clear. You do not need to know this stuff to be good at music. Can it help? Sure. Course. Okay, the musical alphabet. Starting with the basic alphabet, there are 7 letter names in music, which are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But there are 12 notes in music because most of the letter names above contain notes in between them called sharps or flats. Okay, that's what we've been talking about today. We use either a sharp, which looks like a hashtag, or a flat, which looks like a lowercase b, to indicate if the intended note is considered one note higher than the letter name or one note lower than the letter name. The sharp symbol means one higher and the flat symbol means one lower. For example, A sharp and B flat are the same sound and the same note, but we have both due to what I consider a flawed system. Okay. It is. He says, I would love to correct this fundamental oddity by simply using the first 12 letters, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, and omit the sharps and flats. But there's so much history with the current system that it would cause too much confusion. Which is true, right? But isn't it strange when you think about it that the Black Keys don't have their own name? That they are just subject to whichever white key they happen to be near? So all 12 notes in music are A sharp / B flat, okay, B, C, C sharp or D flat. You see how they're the same pitch, okay? D sharp or E flat, E, F sharp or G flat, G sharp or A flat. It's important to know this because we use this as the foundation for building all things in music. Each of these notes are the shortest distance we use in music theory, and they are called half steps or semitones apart. When naming types of distances, we can also call this a minor second musical interval. Okay? So once again, this is from The Science of Music, which you can get in TikTok shop showcase or my Linktree shop or from musictheorysucks.com. Might be too much, but what are the 3 pedals on the piano? So great question. I have a question on TikTok asking what the pedals on the piano do. So they actually do not change pitch. So the pedals on an organ change what we call overtones, but the pedals on like a piano or a keyboard that you might have at home, the one furthest to the right we call the damper pedal, D-A-M-P-E-R, and what that does is I have one here that I attach to my keyboard. It lengthens the decay of the sound. So for instance, here's a note without any pedal. Okay, and right now we've pretty much stopped hearing any of the vibrations, okay? Now here's it with the damper pedal. This pedal lengthens the note. Listen. Do you hear how much reverb and like echo there is on it? And you can still hear the pitch longer. So that's what the damper pedal does. Here, I'll show you. No pedal, pedal. Do you hear how it's more connected? So then the pedal furthest to the left does the direct opposite. It really separates the notes and it cuts them off very quickly. I don't have one of those for my keyboard. I only have the damper pedal. And the one in the middle does something in the middle, right? So the pedal on the right lengthens the notes, the pedal all the way to the left shortens the notes, and the one in the middle does something in the middle. Good question. Yeah, you just don't use them thinking, well, if you're new to playing piano, the damper pedal can be a great friend because especially when I was learning how to play chords to support my singing, if you are struggling to figure out the chord, right? Like say I have to go from C to G and I'm new at this. So here's my C and now it takes me a while to figure out my G. There's my G. Okay. But what if I use the damper pedal? Here's my C. And now I'm figuring out my G. It sounds a lot more connected, right? So I loved the damper pedal when I was a new piano player. It was like a great cheat code for me. So maybe it'll be for you as well. Okay, so we have a good understanding of sharps and flats now, I think, correct? And also for people who are new to the Harmony Nerd community, welcome. If you're here on TikTok or YouTube Live, all of these live sessions are automatically reposted to my YouTube. So if I'm saying something here today that like you need to go back and review it, or maybe you weren't ready for the information and you want to go back and learn again, go to my YouTube, same handle at Resident Harmony Nerd, or there's a link to my YouTube in my link tree, and find the Music Theory Mondays replay playlist. And you can go back and watch this at any time you want and review anything that you want. Thank you so much, Fairy House. Look at all those what are those little TikTok puffs? I like them. Very cool. Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to talk about building key signatures, and this is going to be super basic, okay? This is Key Signatures 101. We'll do another one of these in Music Theory Mondays in a couple of weeks when I'm a little more settled and I have more tools to share with you. So what is a key signature? Well, first we need to understand like a scale, right? So let's just use a major scale, and it has do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I start on middle C, and I play all the white keys up to the next C, and we have what is known as the major scale. So now let's play a scale, but let's, instead of starting on C, let's start on E. So if you know where a C is, the C is to the left of a set of 2 black keys. So the E is the key directly to the right of the set of 2 black keys. Okay? So now I'm starting on an E, and go ahead and play 8 white keys in a row. Try to play the major scale, but starting on E. That doesn't sound like a major scale, does it? Listen to my C, all white keys. Now listen to what happens when I start on E and I play all white keys. Okay, well, I mean, it's nice, but it doesn't sound like the major scale, okay? Now, what happens, listen, I'll play C again, all white keys. So now what happens if I start on E, but I add in the key signature for the key of E? Listen. All of a sudden, it sounds like the major scale, right? The distance between each note is the same. And that's what a key signature is it tells us which black keys to play, which sharps or flats to play in order to have the major scale sound dependent upon where we start. Okay, so if we start on a C, there's no key signature. There's no sharps or flats in the key of C, major. And that's the only key that exists in that way for major scales. We do have something called relative minors, but that is for another session. Okay, so but now what if we want to start our scale on F or G, right? Well, that means that there's going to be at least one black key involved. So why did I start with F and G? Because C major has 0 things in the key signature, 0 accidentals in the key signature, no sharps, no flats. The key of F has 1 flat, and the key of G has 1 sharp. So as we start building out our keys, right, we have a key that has 1 flat. We have a key that has 2 flats. We have a key that has 3 flats, 4 flats, 5 flats, and so on. Same thing with sharps. There's a key with 1 sharp, with 2 sharps, with 3 sharps, with 4 sharps, and so on. Okay, and there are tricks and tools to help you figure out what key you're in if you have the key signature. I'll share that on a future live. But for right now, what I want to do is just kind of help you understand how we build the major scale. How do we figure out the key signature? So if we start on an F, well, because I have music theory memorized, I understand that if I want to play an F major scale starting on an F, there's 1 flat B flat key of F. Okay, and how do I know this? Because I just had to memorize it. Okay, there are tricks to figure out any other key. C and F, you just have to memorize. There are no tricks for those two. Okay, C is the easy one, all white keys. F is 1 flat B flat key of F. Cool. So adding that B flat made it sound like a major scale. Let's try one starting on G. So G has 1 sharp. and it's F sharp. How do I know that? I'll get to that in just a minute. So let's play the key G scale, knowing that there's an F sharp in the key signature. So we'll start on a G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Okay? Without that F sharp, it doesn't quite sound like the major scale. Are there questions there? That was a very broad, like 10,000 foot view of what a key signature is and why we use it. Are there any questions there? I'll give it a minute or two, and then we'll move on. Okay, so you might be like, Tara, how the heck did you know that it was 1 flat, B flat, key of F? And how did you know that it was 1 sharp, F sharp, key of G? Well, there is something called an order of flats and an order of sharps. And this is something that we memorize for music theory, but the good news is the order of flats we memorize with a mnemonic phrase, and the order of the sharps is the same as the flats, just backwards. Okay, so the order of the flats spell the word bead, B-E-A-D, okay? And then after bead is C, G, F. No, G, I got that wrong. G, C, F. Okay. Bead, G, C, F. B-E-A-D, G, C, F. Maybe write it down. And then the order of the sharps are the direct opposite. So we start with the F, then C, then G, then the word bead backwards. So D, A, E, B. When we're doing key signatures, the sharps or flats will always be in this order. So for example, if I'm playing a key that has 1 flat only, it's always going to be B flat. If I'm playing a key that has 3 flats, it's always going to be B, E, and A, because the order of flats does not change, right? You might have seen the circle of fifths. This is essentially what the circle of fifths is showing us. It shows us a lot of things, but this is one of the main concepts that it's showing us, right? The top of the circle of fifths is a C, and then as we move around it, we have 1 flat, 2 flat, 3 flats, okay? And if you go the opposite direction, you have sharps. So if I have a key with only 2 flats, do we remember what flats those would be? Using our order of flats, so it's always the same. B, E, A, D, G, C, F. I'm going to put it in the comments here. That way you guys can screenshot it if that's helpful tool for you. E, A, D, G, C, F. Okay. Coming over here on YouTube now. E, A, D, G, C, F. Okay, so that's the order of the flats. Hi, Amanda. So if we have a key signature with 2 flats, go ahead and look at what I just chatted. Okay, if there's only 2 flats, it's going to be the first 2. So we're going to have a B flat and an E flat in the key signature. Okay, what if I have 5 flats in the key signature? What will they be? They'll be the first 5 letter note names. It's B, E, A, D, and G. Okay. So now that you have all of the flats in order, the sharps are in opposite order. So we start with F when we're dealing with sharps and we work backwards. F, C, G, D, A, E, B. Remember we just played through G major and it had 1 sharp, F sharp, key of G. So what if we're working with a key that has 3 sharps? What sharps would those be? What 3 note names will be sharp in the key of A? Key of A has 3 sharps. Amanda, it could be my Wi-Fi too. I'm not where I usually am. I'm traveling, and I have noticed that there's the Wi-Fi slower here, so it could be me. F, C, and G, Sadara, yes, correct. Awesome work. Thank you. Let me know if I pronounce your name incorrectly too, please. Thank you. Yeah. Cool. So now let's say we have a key signature with only 2 sharps. What would those 2 sharps be? They would be F and C. And the key that has 2 sharps is D major. Yeah, you're on it, Sahara. Heck yeah. Okay, so now let's toggle back and forth. Let's go back to flats. If I have a flat key with 4 flats, what are those 4 flats going to be? They're going to be B, E, A, and D. Okay? And if I have a sharps key with 4 sharps, I'm going to start at the other end. So it'll be F, C, G, and D. Okay? And now there are little tricks to help you figure out a key signature when you're looking at it. And I'm trying to figure out, I wanted to share this information with you today, but it might be a little tricky without having an iPad to show you. And I don't have sheet music near me. Let me see if I can, maybe there's some, I'll find a key signature example here. And this is the Science of Music book if you're just joining. It's available on TikTok Shop or in my Linktree showcase. Okay, so opposite. Yes, Fairy House, exactly. And yes, Sidhara. Exactly. Sharps start with B, E, A, D, G, C, F, and sharps go F, G, C, D, A, E, B, right? One direction for flats and one direction for sharps. Sharps start with F, flats start with B. All right, I'm not sure I see anything key signature as I flip through this book. I haven't gotten through it all yet. Oh, you signed it. I didn't even realize that until just this moment. Okay, how do I do this? How do I do this? I guess I will have to draw it out for you. Okay. So when we look at a piece of sheet music, you will see a staff. And a staff, I'm going to show you right now, is those 5 horizontal lines like this. Okay, you see? Hard to see with the green screen on TikTok. There we go. 5 lines like this, 5 lines like this, okay? And then there's something called a G clef at the beginning of it. It kind of was like a funky little doodad like this. Okay, there we go. And then after the G clef, you're going to see either nothing, which means key of C, or you're going to see a group of sharps or a group of flats. Okay, you will not see a group of sharps and flats. They will not be mixed and matched. That's why our rule of the order of flats and the order of sharps always works, because they're not going to be mixed and matched. Okay, so for this trick to work, you do need to know the names of the notes on the staff. So for people who don't read music, we're going to review that really quickly first. Okay, so from the bottom, the lowest note, and this is for treble clef. Okay, there's also something called bass clef. When you look at piano music and there's a top staff and a bottom staff, the top is treble or higher, and the bass is the left hand or the lower parts. Okay, so we're just working with treble clef, the higher clef today. And the lowest line is E. The next line is G, B, D, F. Okay, so the lowest line here is E. And then the next one is G, B, D, F. So if you notice, they skip, right? E, there's no F, but then there's a G. There's no A, but then there's a B. Okay? There's no C, but then there's a D. There's no E, but then there's an F. Why? Because those notes fall in the spaces. Okay? So a mnemonic phrase that we learn to memorize the notes on the staff are every good boat does float. Starting from the bottom, E, G, B, D, F. That's how you remember the lines, okay? And how do you remember the spaces? Well, because they're the letters that the lines skipped, but they also spell the word face. This first open space in between the two bottom lines is an F. The next one is an A, the next is a C, and the top space is an E, okay? And then we can have pitches above and below the staff. They always go in order, a line, then a space, then a line, then a space, then a line, then a space, okay? So for example, starting on the bottom line, we have E, then the space is F, the next line is G, then the space is A, the next line is B, the space is C, the next line is D, the space is E, and then the top line is F, okay? And then there are imaginary lines that we call ledger lines, and those lines can go above or below the staff for notes that are higher or lower, okay? So the reason you need to know the note names to identify the key signature is because you need to know the names on the staff in order to understand what the names of the sharps and flats are that we're using, okay? Brett says, I used to think singing a flat note meant just that flat singing. I couldn't understand why. Yeah, well, and there is a discrepancy there, right? We can sing a B flat or we can sing a B flat, right? I can sing a B flat, la, or I can sing a B and be under pitch. La, that's singing flat, right? But singing a B flat can be in tune. I'm just naming a note. So really good. Thanks for pointing that out, Brett. Okay. Did that make sense, the distinction between the two? Okay, so when we're working with flats, yes, thank you, awesome. Do we remember what the first flat in the order of flats is? Can anybody remember? Our first flat is B flat. So do you see how I'm on my third line, which is B, represents B, and then you see how I put the little lowercase b on the line. Yes, that's correct, Fairy House. Every good boat does float for the lines of the treble clef and face for the spaces in the treble clef. Yes, correct. So when I put my first flat in the sequence, which is a B flat, I'm going to put it here on the sheet music, okay? And do we remember what key it is? This was one of the ones we just had to memorize. There's no easy, quick answer for this one. Just posting for all. Thank you, Fairy House. I appreciate it. One flat, B flat, is the key of F. Okay, remember, this is one we just have to memorize. There's no special trick. But there's special tricks for the rest of them, and I'm about to show you what they are. So we have our order of flats. Does anybody remember what comes after B in the order of flats? What's the next flat? So the next flat is E, okay? So the E is the top space, right? So I'm gonna now, do you see how this little B is in the space? It's not on the line. That's how we know that it's an E. Okay, so when we're figuring out a flat key, what we do is we go to the second to last flat. So the last flat, when you're looking at it, is the furthest to the right. Okay, so here I have two flats. So I'm gonna go to the second to last flat. Well, there's only two here. So the second to last flat is the first flat in this case. Now, what is the name of this flat? The first flat here. Do you all remember? Where did we put the very first flat? What is the name of this one? Anybody recall? So this is a B flat, which means we're in the key of B flat. So once you have 2 or more flats, you can name the name of the key by going to the second to last flat. You can't see the paper. I know. I'm sorry. I usually have flashcards that are a lot easier to see, but I have no idea where they are right now since I just moved. Yeah, it's all good. I have poor vision as well. So this is a B flat, okay? Because we have the order of flats is B, E, A, D, G, C, F. So we have 2 flats now. We go to the second to last flat. That's the name of our key, B flat. Okay, let's take it one step further. So if we have 3 flats in the key signature, the next in the order is A. So B, E flat, and A flat, okay? B flat, E flat, A flat, okay? So now, if I go to the second to last flat, here's one. The second to last flat is this E flat. So we're in the key of E flat. Does that make sense? Okay. What's the next note in our order of flats? B, E, A, D. Okay. So I just added a D flat here. And now I'm going to go to the second to last flat, which is back 1. Oh, okay. We have an A flat. So I'm in the key of A flat. Does this make sense? This is a rule to figure out the name of the key you're in for flats. It does not work for sharps. I'm about to teach you what works for sharps, okay? Okay, so this was our practices with flats, and now this is going to be our practice with sharps, okay? So we'll disregard this. And does anybody remember the first sharp in our series of sharps? Now remember, the order of the flats is the order of the sharps, but they're backwards. So when you are doing flats, it's B, E, A, G, C, F. But when we're doing sharps, we start at the end and go backwards. So what would that first sharp be? Oh, my tummy's growling. She hungry. Bingo. F sharp. So looking at my treble staff here, I know that my lines are every good boat does float. F. F is my top line. Okay. And I know F sharp is my first sharp in sharp key signatures. So I'm going to draw a little sharp hashtag sign on that top line. Okay. Now, what key is this in? For sharps, we have a different trick than we use for flats. Okay. So the trick for sharps is to go to the very last one. Well, that means this works with only one. So I don't have to memorize just one sharp the same way I had to memorize one flat, because the trick works with only one. You go to the last sharp, which happens to be the only sharp, and then you have to name it. Okay. So we know that this is F sharp because we used our order of sharps. And then we found where it was on the staff using our knowledge of the musical staff. Okay. So when we're trying to identify a sharp key, we find that last sharp, we name it. Okay, F sharp. And then we go up a half step. What's a half step above F sharp? It's a G. We're in the key of G. Does that make sense? So for sharps, you find the last sharp, name it, then go up a half step, and that's the name of your key. Okay. For flats, you go to the second to last flat and name it, and that's your key. Do you see there's quite a significant difference between the two? So you have to memorize the formulas, but once you memorize them, you can figure out any key signature, okay? Hi, Thina. Nice to see you. We're learning Key Signatures 101 today, okay? So the second sharp in the sequence, in the order, is C sharp, right? F, C, G, D, A, E, B. So if I'm going to add a C sharp, well, let me see. Third space on the treble clef is a C. So do you see how I put my second sharp in the third space from the bottom? So now I have an F sharp and a C sharp. Great. This is following my orders of sharp. Must be correct, okay? So now I'm going to the last sharp, which in this case is our C sharp. I'm going to name the sharp like I just did. We know it's a C sharp because we're using our order of sharps. And then I'm going to go up a half step from a C sharp, and that's going to be the name of my key. Does anybody know what a half step above a C sharp is? Here's my C sharp. Yes, Fairy House, it's a D. That's correct. So we're in 2 sharps is the key of D. Okay? Awesome. Yes, Fairy House. Yes, Tina. Fairy House says was writing the second to last. Okay, so when you're doing sharps, we're doing what we're doing right now, which is finding the last sharp, naming it, and then going a half step above. The half step above is the name of our key. When we're doing flats, in order to use the trick, we need at least 2 flats, right? Remember, we have to just memorize 1 flat is the key of F. But when we're doing 2 flats or more, you go to the second to last flat. So you find the flat furthest to your right, go back 1, and name it. That's the name of your key, okay? A flat key, besides the key of F, will always have the word flat in it, right? Key of B flat, key of E flat, key of A flat, key of D flat, key of G flat. Okay, sharp keys don't have sharp in the name, right? We have the key of G, which is 1 sharp F sharp. We have the key of D, 2 sharps, key of A, 3 sharps, okay? So a key with a flat is almost always going to have the word flat in the name of it, with the exception of the key of F, because it doesn't follow the rules. Did that clarify your the question for you? Okay, let's practice 2 more sharp keys and then we'll be done for today. So we're going to add our 3rd sharp, which if we're following the order is G sharp. So the G sharp is the space right above the top line, right? Remember when we were learning the note names on the treble clef, we talked about how you can go above or below the staff, and they're like these invisible lines and spaces, okay? So if our last line, our highest line here is an F, then the space above the F is a G, okay? Awesome, glad that helped. So now I have my F sharp, my C sharp, and my G sharp in my key signature because I'm following the order of sharps. In order to find the name of this key, I'm going to identify the last sharp, the sharp furthest to my right when I'm looking at it. What is the name of this last sharp? Then go a half step above, and that's the name of the key you're in. So we identified this is a G sharp. What key are we in? 3 sharps, F, C, G, key of... We're in the key of A. So we go to this G sharp and we go a half step above. Key of A has 3 sharps. Okay, and the last one today, let's do 4 sharps. Does anybody remember what that 4th sharp would be if we're going in order of the sharps? Remember, the flats order is one direction and the sharps order is the opposite direction. Yes, A, got it. Awesome. G is the 3rd sharp. We just added G. Let's add the 4th sharp. F, C, G. The next one is D, like dog. Okay, because now we're getting into spelling the word bead backwards. Okay, F, C, G, D. Okay, so I put my sharp on the 4th line here, D. Yeah, that's okay. I like that you're throwing guesses out there. That's awesome. E is a little further along in our order of sharps. So 4 is going to be F, C, G, and then D. Okay. So now we know D sharp is our last pitch. So we go up a half step from there. Maybe now you're on to something, Fairy House. What's the name of the key? The key with 4 sharps, its name is E. Because we're going to our last sharp, the sharp furthest to the right, and we know it's a D sharp. So if we go a half step above a D sharp, we're in the key of E. So you were ahead of your time, but you didn't even know it. By saying E, you said the correct answer before you even knew. Okay? So I hope that that made sense. This is like key signature 101. And why do we have key signatures? So that we can start on any note we want and still have the same quality, right? We can start on a C, use the key signature for C and play a major scale. Or we can start on an F, use the key signature for an F and still play a major scale. Understanding that major scales are made up of formulas, okay? And I actually have a really great Music Theory Monday from probably like a month or two ago called Building the Major Scale. And this is a totally different way to look at building key signatures, building major scales. So it's another way to ensure that you're always playing a major scale properly, but you're building it in a totally different way. Instead of building it with note names and key signatures like we did today, you're building it using a formula based on whole steps and half steps. Okay, so like there are so many different valid ways of learning and hearing music, which is something that I'm hoping to get across through these sessions. Like one way is not better than the other, one way is not more correct than the other. They're all just kind of different pathways to end at the same place, if that makes sense. So if you liked key signatures, keep moving in this direction if it worked for your brain. If you were like, this didn't make a lot of sense to me, I think I would do better with a formula, then go check out how to build a major scale on my Music Theory Monday replay list, okay? If you liked the information from the book, this is the Science of Music book. You can grab it here on my TikTok shop showcase or in my Linktree shop on YouTube or from musictheorysucks.com, okay? And tomorrow, we're going to work more with these half steps, these sharps and flats that we spent a lot of time talking about today. We're going to sing them. We're going to ear train them so we can start to get it in our head. Singing a half step can be really tricky. And remember, it's the building block, the smallest little building block that we have in the Western music scale. So it's really important to be able to hear it and sing it accurately. Okay? Does anybody have any questions from anything that we've learned today? We went through a lot and it was pretty dense. Okay, I'll be here for a couple more minutes. I'm going to start my sign-off spiel. And if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I feel great since I never understood any of this, at least catching the concepts. Good. Awesome. I'm so glad that, that's the point, is to empower you all with this music theory knowledge, right? Cool. So everyone, this was Music Theory Monday. My name is Tara. I'm a professional singer and music teacher based in New York City. Thanks for hanging out today. I hope you enjoyed your Key Signature 101 lesson. If you missed any of it or you'd like to review it, you can go to my YouTube at Resident Harmony Nerd, find the Music Theory Monday playlist, and this week's live will be posted as well as all of the previous weeks. I have free music education offerings 5 days a week. Today is Music Theory Monday. Tomorrow is Ear Training Tuesday. Okay, so that will be at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time live. Once again, if you miss it, you can just pop on YouTube and check out the replay. Okay, we're going to be working on hearing and singing half steps tomorrow. Okay, and how we use those to build a major scale when we're singing. Okay, warm up Wednesday, which, y'all, I'm having my tongue tie release tomorrow, so I'm not entirely certain I'm going to be able to sing Wednesday. I will come on and maybe we'll just have a Q&A about the tongue tie release, but we're going to see what happens. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, go watch my last couple pieces of content. They're surrounding getting a tongue tie release. Okay, you're amazing, Fairy House. Thank you. So I'll see you tomorrow at 10:30. If you have any questions on any of this, you can feel free to ask them tomorrow. You were tongue-tied at birth. Yeah, I think I must have been too, but nobody paid attention. Rude. Now I have to deal with it as an adult. But I learned from my research on tongue tie that at least in the US, they stopped looking for tongue ties, checking for tongue ties on babies in the 70s when formula became really popular because it's a lot easier for babies to latch to a bottle than to a breast. So when babies were latching to bottles, they wouldn't notice the tongue tie because they would have an easy time. But if a baby tries to latch to a breast and it's tongue tied, it has a really hard time. So then the doctors would release the tongue ties. So when they stopped doing this in the 70s, now those of us who didn't get our tongue ties released were now adults, and they're starting to see like the lifelong implications that it has. And mine is tight enough that it's actually pulling my teeth together and back. So I think it's really going to be life-changing. I think it's going to release a lot of head, neck, and shoulder tension for me. I could possibly get taller as well. Like, you have to do body work along with these tongue tie release because the tongue goes all the way to your toes through fascia. Isn't that wild? So you were born in 77. Yes, exactly. Dina, am I scared or excited? Both. I'm really excited because I think it's going to have life-changing implications. I think that it's going to help my nervous system relax and my whole body kind of reorganize itself. But I'm also scared to have like an open wound in my mouth, right? Like, that doesn't sound fun. I'm nervous about infection and pain, right? But also, like, children have this procedure done and they say that it feels like a canker sore under the tongue. They do it with a laser. So I'm just mostly concerned about it healing correctly, and pain, of course, because I'm a human. I'm a Brody. How did I get rich? I want a Lamborghini. I'll let you know. I'm still working on the getting rich part. No Lamborghini for me, but it'd be nice to, pay rent and not worry about it. Right? I know y'all feel me. It'll heal quickly. It will heal quickly, Dina. They really do. They heal very quickly. Just a little bit nervous. So, Fairy House is sending love and healing prayers. Thank you, my dear. Sending love and healing prayers your way as well. Yes. All right. So tomorrow, Ear Training Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. It's the last time y'all are going to see me with a tongue tie. And then I'll see you Wednesday. Maybe we'll do warm up Wednesday. Maybe we'll just talk about tongue tie procedure. Maybe I won't talk at all. So if you keep your eyes on my stories, I'll let you know if I have to cancel Wednesday in order to heal. Yeah, thank you, Fairy House. I'm excited too. I just worked with my myofunctional therapist before I logged on to this live, and she was saying, she's like, oh, I'm so excited for you. Like, you're going to feel like a whole new person. I know, I feel like I should rest too, but everybody acts like it's no big deal. Like, it's just going to happen and I'm going to go on living my day-to-day life. So, but I am a person that really advocates for rest. So I'm just going to listen to my body. We're going to see how I feel. And I'm wondering if, see how, my neck is all tight and everything, is that going to disappear? I have seen people, you see how, you can see my tongue down here almost like a double chin. I have seen people who had the procedure, this goes away because all of a sudden the tongue can stretch. I can feel how tight it is under there because my tongue's essentially glued to the bottom of my mouth. So it'll be interesting to see how it will release. Anyway, thanks for listening. And actually, I have to create a piece of content tonight. Somebody asked me to share some of the tongue exercises with them, which I'm willing to do, but I want to show you before I get the release and after I get the release. So I'll have to make that video tonight. It is crazy tight. It really is. When the myofunctional therapist was like, honey, yours is so bad it's pulling your teeth backwards. I was like, I knew my teeth were going backwards, but I had no idea it was because of my tongue tie. It is crazy, right, Gabriel? The power of the tongue. And I think I've mentioned too to the community that just since I've been doing these tongue exercises, I started just about a month ago. I found all this new rich color in my singing voice from being able to control my tongue and being able to put it down and spread it more, especially in the back. I have more control over the back of my tongue. So I can get more space, which means I can create a deeper, richer tone in my singing voice. So it's just expanding all the possibilities that I have, which is really exciting. And I've heard from other professional singers who have had this work done that it just opens up their voices in really beautiful ways. So, but you do have to be really diligent about the exercises because it will reattach if you don't continuously stretch it. So I have my work cut out for me. Maybe Wednesday we'll do tongue stretches instead of warm up Wednesday. Maybe we'll do tongue stretches together since I have to do them anyway. I think I'll plan for that. That sounds like a good thing to do, using all the sections of your mouth. Yes. And like Fairy House, I realized too is that like the whole middle section of my tongue is frozen. I never use it because it's like essentially glued in place. So when I'm trying to do these tongue exercises, it becomes like agitated and irritable pretty quickly. So you wonder if yours tightened. So I saw a myofunctional therapist in order to be diagnosed, and my insurance covered it. I couldn't believe it. And they're covering my sessions. I have a copay, a small copay, but I can't believe the insurance is covering this. So there's a chance, right? And might be worth looking into. I don't know though with the other treatments that you have that if now is a good time for you, but if you wanted to check, I was diagnosed by a myofunctional therapist, and in order to become a myofunctional therapist, you either first need to be a speech language pathologist or a dental hygienist. Okay, so the one that I saw that my insurance covered, she's a speech language pathologist. Okay, but former dental hygienists can also get the certification in myofunctional therapy, which is like stretching and strengthening the tongue to prepare for these tongue tie release surgeries. So anyway, there was more interest in that than I thought that there would be. So maybe I'll do a live on tongue tie at some point. I'm also excited too because I'm going to be able to teach other vocalists who have this tongue tie release, right? Like I'm going to learn how to recoup the voice after a tongue tie release, so then I can help other people do the same thing. So my friends, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Harmony Nerd community. If you're new, my name is Tara. I'm a professional singer based in Brooklyn, in New York City in the US. And I'm also a music educator, content creator, and I have free music education offerings 5 days a week. So tomorrow is Ear Training Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Come check it out. Do some ear training exercises with me. And I'll see you later on in this week. Yeah, have a wonderful day, everybody. Mwah. Thanks for being a part of the community. And I will talk to you soon. Bye. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye, bye.